Because it is Woodward Pistons Wednesday. This is the official day that we drop the podcast with Rod Beard, where we get his thoughts as well as my own and the rest of the cast and the crew. And we'll answer whatever questions we can from you all as well. And then we'll have Lions uninterrupted for the end of the show, rather than having Rod Beard talk a little Lions, then Pistons, and then back to Lions. So let us cook up. Hey, I need that drum roll going because it is our Woodward Pistons segment for the legend. Hey, yo! Shout out and welcome to the legend that is Detroit News, Rod Beard. Hey, as always, it is good to see you. Are we hearing sound?
Audio working. Audio.
Let's go! I'm fired up!
Let's go!
I'm fired up! Boy, let's rock. Got the Michigan shirt on and everything. Looking crispy. Hey, look at that. We're just supporting Michigan, Go Blue, and Detroit on the same shirt.
How you doing,
Look
Rod?
at you, Rod.
Gentlemen.
Let's go.
You on the first try. Let's go.
Let's go. I love it. I love it. And you know what, Rod? We're talking Pistons first. And you already know we kick things off with Rod's thoughts.
I got nothing. I think we have hit everything.
Yep.
I'll give you an Olympics thought that France almost lost to Japan, and that was an exciting end to that game. By all rights, France should have lost that. Japan gave up a 4-point play in the last couple of seconds. But the Olympics are not quite as fun to watch because everybody doesn't have a stacked team. Obviously, the U.S. does. It'll be good to see some things. But yeah, it's something to watch. It's basketball to watch right now.
Yeah, it is. And in the Olympics, it's always a good watch. It's interesting to see this team, especially with like guys like LeBron James, what KD did in that first half, going 8 of 8 in that other game. It's like, yo, these guys are actually coming out. And I think beyond just competing with the other Olympic teams, I think they're competing with each other as well. The greatest basketball players on the face of this earth, I know they're teammates, but that competitive edge to go out there and try and put forth your best while you're playing with these guys, I'm sure that fire is underneath them.
Yeah, I mean, what kind of team do you have where you don't play all-stars? You don't play all
Tatum, man.
Jason Tatum's just going to say, what kind of squad do you have where that's the case? But, I mean, to see Book kind of cooking too is also very good. This is a team that could be fun to watch, but I just want to see if they can get to that level, stay at that level that they're supposed to. And they ran Serbia off the floor, so that was good to see also.
And Rod, is it reasonable to hope, or dare I say expect, Cade Cunningham to be on this team in 4 years?
I would say expect is a little much, but hope, yeah. I think there's a really good chance that he could be. He's got to have a couple more solid seasons, and you probably need an all-star selection or two to look at this and say, yeah, you're going to be there. You would assume Anthony Edwards. You would assume Book might be back. Tatum, Brown. I mean, there's a lot of guys who can be right there for it. Cade, I think, it can take that big jump starting this year with an all-star selection.
And in 4 years, could we see Jalen, Duren, and Angel Reese at the Olympics together?
Wonder what I'm going to leave that to Woodward TMZ Pistons.
See, that's why he's that is a smart man up there on screen. We'll avoid that.
Yeah, and before I get to some questions, I know that there's a little bit of news as well at the Detroit News and their Detroit Pistons department. I was going to give you an opportunity to talk about it, definitely.
No, we hired a new Pistons beat writer. His name is Cody Davis. He'll be coming in from Houston. He covered the Rockets and also the Texans for Sports Illustrated there. And actually today is his first day. So he'll get some administrative stuff out of the way. And over the next couple of weeks, he'll start chiming in and writing and getting up to speed on everything. But we're very, very excited about that. And in addition to Nolan Bianchi is our new Lions beat writer. So we are clearing the decks and bringing in some new guys.
To go from Justin Rogers to Nolan Bianchi, that is awesome. That is awesome. Nolan's a great writer, a good dude. I'm excited to have him on your beat.
That's awesome.
Nolan, and welcome, Cody. Real quick, because I don't want to take up Pistons time with Lions stuff. Nolan has really worked his way up. And Nolan was kind of a freelance writer for us. He took the calls for high school stories. He's really worked his way up to be able to give him this opportunity And for him to earn it, not even giving him an opportunity, for him to earn the opportunity is just awesome to see, because that's the same sort of path that I took when I got started at writing. So, but Cody Davis, we'll get him on the podcast also when he's up to speed on things.
That is awesome. That's awesome. Shout out to you, Cody. Welcome. Hey, can't wait to meet. It's gonna be awesome. But let's get into a little bit of Detroit Pistons talk. Listen, the Jaden Ivey discourse over the last week absolutely blew up, not just on the Woodward Pistons channel, but on Woodward Sports as well, out of nowhere. And I've heard feedback from people even closer to Jaden Ivey camp as well. And they're like, look, don't give up on our boy. He's working. He's working his tail off. And I do believe that this new environment is going to be one that is more catering to the Detroit Pistons young core. Not just the coaching staff that they've brought in, as well as the vets that they have here too. And it's cool to hear, just kind of being close to the situation, that Tobias Harris is not just here to kind of go to pasture. He still has some fire left, and he actually wants to put on here for people that he believes deserve it. Tobias Harris has some really interesting comments to say, as well as what he put out there on social media as it relates to how he feels about Detroit and all of the support they gave him when he was here and even after he left as well. And so my question is this, because I know a lot of people, they wanted, including us, for them to go out there and secure a more premium score or whatnot. But have the Pistons done enough right now for this Detroit Pistons team? Because I don't know where to place them. I don't know. Like, they've made some decent moves. And when you just kind of look at this thing in a vacuum, it looks like they're definitely going to be better than a 14-win team. But have they done enough? And what they've done right now, where exactly is this placing them? They're over-under? Seen it from 24.5 to 26.5.
Yeah, the enough is enough for what are you expecting? Are you expecting 30 wins? No, I don't know if they've done enough for 30 wins. Have they done enough to be respectable and to be a good watch just about every night? Yeah, maybe. I think so. I think the adding Tobias added another scorer who may not be your 1A scorer, but he's a really good scorer. He can do things on the court for you to complement what Cade is doing. To go and get Malik Beasley is also a good add. To get Tim Hardaway Jr. adds another veteran presence and a scorer, a proven scorer, a guy who can come in and start if you need him to. So as we've said over the past few weeks, it's not about expectation on these young guys. You don't need Ron Holland to come in and start. Right? And he's not even in that conversation the way that we were talking about Asar last year and Ivy and Duren, that these guys have to come in and start immediately. I think you can finally kind of take a breather and look at the depth of this team and say, where are the questions there? What does our bench look like? Which we haven't been able to do for
you know what, Rod? That right there, I think, speaks to one of the biggest differences. When we're looking for improvements right away, a lot of times we're looking for the win total to go up right now. But the fact that we know our top 5 pick, which we've had a lot of those during this kind of 3 or 4 year run, is going to enter this team and could potentially be at the end of the depth chart, already speaks to the level of talent they have and where our young guys that were here previously, where they are and where they could be moving forward if they take that jump forward. It does make me a little bit more comfortable with Trajan Langdon. We talked about, is he going to move at the speed or the pace of what the fans want? Because they've been waiting for a very long time. Or does he get the opportunity to come in, and we've talked about this with Scott Harris as well, to establish his way and do this thing the right way, even if it takes a little bit more time than the fans have, and this is the dirty word, patience for. But in terms of knowing that Ron Holland and Bobby Klintman are entering the organization where they've had the most depth, the most reliable depth, players that play, players that are not going to get injured, vets that are going to be on the court, and not just be kind of motivation from the bench, clapping and waving a towel or being practice warriors, but actually going out there and being the guys that can, I can give you 20 any night. Those are the guys that are here on the roster right now. It might not be like we said, the Zach LaVine type scores, but I think in terms of the balance and in terms of the leadership that we're looking for, I think that they fit in right now. But I left it kind of open-ended, that question as it relates to have they done enough, because there's multiple ways you could take that. One of those ways being as well, free agency. Via Keith Smith, at Keith Smith, NBA Keith Smith, he said the best available free agents left, point guard. And we have what some people
to shore up that position, but it's still very Marcus Sasser. I didn't like his summer league performance overall, but there's more growth that they can do at a couple of other positions. And listen, when we talked about free agency, or not even free agency as much as trades and adding to this team, all of the things that we kind of threw out there, the Zach LaVine, the Brandon Ingram, the Jeremy Grants, I think it's notable to say that none of those guys have moved anywhere else. So if we were out here big fish hunting and looking for big names, it's not that they ended up going to somewhere else and they didn't want to come to Detroit. I think in most of those cases, it's Detroit didn't want to make that type of move. And they wanted to kind of creep slowly and kind of move in a certain kind of way. And Trajan Langdon is doing that. So of the other free agents that are out there and the other targets that we've talked about that are out there, I don't think there's anything else that they're going to do that's kind of on that radar. And we may just be looking at the roster as is going into training camp.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to be able to break that down because people can feel one way or the other. We're not going to control how people feel, but in terms of being able to assess what the Detroit Pistons did this offseason, they spent the money, and I think that they spent it well. Beasley, Hardaway Jr., Tobias Harris, locking up Cade Cunningham. That is a heck of an offseason if you're the Detroit Pistons. And it gives you a foundation to be able to build on going forward, a real solid one. The previous foundation was young talent. I don't know how solid that was. This current foundation, though, is a mix of vets who have played in big positions like Tobias Harris, Beasley, and Tim Hardaway Jr., who was just the third leading scorer on a team that was playing in the finals. So it's like, Beasley started 79 games next to Giannis in the Bucks lineup. These are the guys that are now in this Detroit Pistons organization, and I do believe in Trajan. It's more of this kind of this methodical presence that he has to him and the ways that he's operating and the people that he's brought in around him. They've already made big impacts. And throughout all of that, the Pistons still have about $11 million in cap space. They still have their room exception as well that they can utilize. So if they want to be able to make any more improvements to this team, they still have some assets at their disposal, and they didn't have to part with any of their young players just yet. They still have the opportunity to either build up their value so that, like we always say, you want them to be as valuable on your roster and how you see them in your eyes as they would be in a trade, and not how, as Detroit fans, we've done in the past where we will hype up our guys a little more than they should be, like Rodney Stuckey's of the world. I want to see this organization now that they got the right, what I believe to be development kind of personnel in this organization around these young guys, really put this young guys, Jaden Ivey's, your Jalen Duren's, your Sar Thompson's, your Cade Cunningham's even. I know we look at him differently with that max contract, but he's still a young player that needs to be surrounded by good players as well. I'm looking forward to seeing what they're going to do. I think that that's the biggest question facing the Pistons right now is how are you going to handle these young players? I don't have questions about Beasley, Tobias Harris, or even Tim Hardaway Jr. I know what they're going to do. But what are the Pistons going to do right now? How does it look moving forward, supporting this young group that could realistically drive what this team is over the next decade?
Right, and I think the key is they didn't go out and have bad contracts. There's no bad contract that's on this roster. I mean, the biggest one obviously is Cade, and then you got Tobias, and then some other ones that are kind of fringy. But you didn't break the bank. You didn't commit yourself to somebody that you're not sure about, and you just say, oh, we got to ride this out and see what happens. Tobias is movable if something happens there. Tim Hardaway's movable. All of these guys are like one-year contract deals for Beasley and Hardaway. So you don't have to go in a certain direction. Cade is the only one that's really extended long-term, and you'll figure out what you got to do with Duren and Ivey and those guys coming up. But you are in a good financial position in addition to everything else, that you can be flexible this year at the deadline if you feel like you need to add something, or if you need to be a seller, you can bring in some more picks or some other capital somewhere in there too. So I think they've done a good job of managing this. And all the other stuff that we said, if you're going to get Ingram, you got to pay him. If you're going to get Levine, you would have to pay him. Jeremy Grant, you're taking on a bigger contract too. They did none of those things. Mm-hmm. So on one hand, you would feel better, and I would feel like, hey, they really made a splash. But at the same time, you feel like this team, you'll see where they are when you start the season, and you still have some flexibility at the deadline if you want to go that route.
Hey, that's awesome. Thank you, right, as always. The Pistons talk, breaking things down. I kind of given an assessment of where the Detroit Pistons are right now. Obviously, you got training camp well into the future, and then the preseason and the start of the season. So I can't wait till things get going, because I do believe they made some interesting moves. But we got to get the people into this Lions talk. So we got Rob here for one more second, which is awesome as this Lions talk begins. Training camp, y'all. Hey, let's rock. But I got to tell you about something else that's awesome as well.